as well, from about 3 years ago. Really beautiful company, because to me these two books go together. They're from the Davis stable, as it were. And as a folklorist and a song researcher, what I like about Gwilym and Carol's work is that they are shifting the focus from the songs and the tunes themselves, which we all love, and that's what we're interested in, and that's what got us involved. But they're telling us about the people, the singers and musicians that were collected in inverted commas from, and also about the experiences in Gwilym's book, the experiences of being a collector. And I think that's really important. I'm really pleased that there are people doing that, as I say, shifting the focus, moving our view of folk song into a different perspective. Now, Gwilym, as we all know, has been around for a long time, and that's one of the virtues of the collecting process, is that the more you do it, the better at it you get. Well, I presume so. And that's, again, one of the things that the book gave me, the pleasure it gave me, was to see the way that he, as a person, and also as a folk song collector, found this stuff. It's interesting to know, why he did it and where he went. My only criticism is that it's too short. We need another one or two to go into more detail and to tell us more experiences. So that's why when I was asked to write the introduction, I was happy to do so, because really it is breaking new ground. And who'd have thought it, that, after 100 and odd years of folk song research, that we could still be breaking new ground. And that's really pleasing. So I don't know how much time I'm meant to have had for this, but as I'm on first, that's pretty much all I've got to say. If you haven't read the book yet, do so, and also read Carol's book, and then email them and ask for more. Back to you, Heather.
Thanks very much, Steve. Now let's hear from Gwilym, and perhaps I could ask what prompted you to write the book.
What prompted me to write the book? Well, I've been sort of out there with my tape recorder and camcorder for quite a few decades now, and I thought, well, some people might be interested in some of the anecdotes. So about 10 years ago, I started writing a few things down, and then I just couldn't stop writing it. And I thought, well, this might turn into a book. And I consulted a few people, and they said, oh, yeah, I think that'll be quite readable. And so it was really just to share some of the experiences. The book's not about me, it's about the people I met. So anyway, there's the book, in case you haven't seen it, and the CD. But I've had a great time meeting these people and hearing their songs, and well, just setting it down in words. And Pegasus were nice enough to say they'd publish it. So I started, I suppose, when I was living in Hampshire in the 70s, and I thought, well, there must be folk songs around out there somewhere apart from the folk scene. So I set out in the local pubs and asking the older folks of the village where I was working as a teacher. And I was taken to a care home in Basingstoke in Hampshire, and I met Charlie Milam. And I said, oh, hello, Charlie. He was a nice old boy. He was in his mid-80s. I said, do you know any old songs? Oh, yes. And he launched into the song, which I think Carol is going to put up on the screen now. Okay. Technology works. A few clicks of the mouse. I can hear it going on there.
For 3 kings came from the east for fortunes for to tell, And these three kings did swear, and thou John Barleycorn should fall to the right for the law, the riddle of the law, right for the all right day. They got their plough, they ploughed him in, put clods all over his head. John he laid in the ground for one fortnight, the rain from heaven did send. John Barleycorn sprang up again, made liars of them all, to the right for the law, the riddle of the law, right for the all right day.
Yeah. I think you forgot to share screen there, Carol, but never mind.
Sorry, yeah, apologies.
But it
Don't know.
doesn't matter. People heard it, and there wasn't anything to see anyway because it didn't have a photo of Charlie Mylan. But I was so excited there because I'd heard songs in the folk song clubs and whatever, and that was fine, and they were very well done. But to actually sort of go out and meet somebody who sang it for real was quite exciting to me, and immediately made a link to the old songs in my brain. So I'm very fond of that recording. It was incomplete. He sang a couple more verses, but I'm just going to read. I mean, I think this is pertinent what I wrote in the book, and this is what I wrote. When I started collecting songs in the early 70s, it was still possible to go out of an evening to the pubs and meet people, mainly men, whose memories stretched back to a previous century, with broad accents and even broader senses of humour, who had lived through 2 world wars, who grew up in the years before easy transport, telephones and mass media, and at a time when the quickest way to get from A to B was by horse, and had made their living from the land. Many of them would have seen the Times, and the only music they would have heard, apart from the odd scratchy 78 record, would have been self-generated by the families themselves, by their companions, from the music in the street and from the odd village concert party, but quite different now with pipe music coming at us from all sides. So I thought you'd like to hear a bit about that. But I'm going to hand back to Heather now because there's somebody else I want to bring in.
Thank you very much. Next, we'd like to hear from someone who was well acquainted with Gwilym's collecting in Hampshire. And this is Bob Askew, who's also a Hampshire hog.
Right, I'm on.
You're on.
Yeah, no, I just to go a bit beyond my script. That version of John Barleycorn is very, very similar to the one collected almost over 100 years before by George Gardner in Fareham, at the bottom of the county. Basingstoke's up the top end. So that's very interesting. And also, well, let me start. I was born near Fareham in Hampshire in 1950, and what Gwilym said, I think at the time we had no TV, transport was bad, as Gwilym said, and everything, but it's actually a privilege to grow up in that time before all this pipe music and media on all the time, mobile phones and such. It was a different world, and it does allow me to empathise with the early singers. I was born near Fareham in Hampshire in 1950 and got interested in folk music like most people in those days in my teens. It was a great age for interest in folk music. And I visited every pub in the area, but somehow missed out on Sam's in Shedfield, just set back from the Shedfield Common. So I never knew I was frequently cycling past live traditional music played just 3 miles from where I grew up and where I lived. But Gwilym found out about it. He'd moved to North Hampshire at Basingstoke and he searched all over the area for traditional songs and music. And he managed to make recordings of singers and musicians in Sam's and in other Hampshire places such as the Harrow Inn at Steep near Petersfield. It was difficult for a 20-year-old to record the singers, and some of the recordings have a noisy background. But Gwilym caught George Privet, Jack Oakley and other great singers and musicians who were still around. Through Gwilym, their songs and their tunes are preserved for all of us, hopefully forever. He published a pamphlet of the songs and tunes in 1974, and this was probably the first scholarly publication devoted to traditional Hampshire songs. There'd been one shortly before it, but it mixed up traditional and written stuff. It was mostly written stuff, and there was no attribution, so you didn't know which was the traditional, authentic material. Gwilym also made a CD of the songs later on, sung by himself along with some others he collected in Gloucestershire. This was the first CD that I found of Hampshire songs when I started seriously researching about 20 years ago, and it was wonderful to hear it. It was great to hear the different versions of known songs and some that had never been noted before. I'd only found about 6 Hampshire songs at this point. I actually asked the wrong people. There were people around that knew about the Hampshire songs, but very, very many people in the folk world and everywhere didn't know about the Hampshire songs. This is before the great EFDSS online site, which we can use today and makes so easy to find songs. Gwilym gave me a strong impetus to look further, which brought me to the great George Gardner collection of Hampshire folk songs, which became the core of my research over the rest of the years. Gwilym moved on to Gloucestershire, but other local people took an interest following on from him, and everyone in Hampshire owes a great debt to Gwilym for starting the search in our generation and for finding and preserving the songs and music for us. He did a really great job. And the book does tell the story. It's a great book. I really enjoyed reading it. As Steve says, there could be more. It'd be wonderful if there's more. But the chapters are short and very easy to read, and he hits a hammer on the nail again and again with the points. It's really worth looking at it. Thanks. It's a great job, Gwilym.
Steve?
Thanks very much indeed, Bob. And like me, because I moved from Hampshire to Gloucestershire, so did Gwilym, but he did it slightly earlier than me in 1972. And I presume that your collecting continued, Gwilym.
Oh, unmute. It's basic, isn't it? Saying unmute. Anyway, yeah, Bob mentioned that I put out a little book of Hampshire songs in 72. Carol, 72 or 74. Carol and I revised the book, and then we have a Hampshire collection that was put out later, a few years ago. So that's for sale. Yeah, so work took me to Gloucestershire in 72, and by that I'd already got a few folk songs under my belt, singing at the University Folk Song Club and the local folk song clubs in Hampshire, which was good fun. But I thought, wow, I've done a little bit of collecting. Let's see what's round about here. So I set out again round the pubs like you do, and I found singers. And one thing that I found fairly soon was the old singers started talking about the wassail song. In fact, they didn't call it wassail; they called it wassail. And we soon found that. I say we because Carol often was with me on these collecting trips, and often we'd find a singer and say, "Do you know the wassailing bowl?" Well, very often they did, and we managed to find about, I think, 5 or 6 more versions of it that hadn't been collected. They're all very similar, but all local village versions, and that was rather interesting. The best one was when we went up to, or down rather, to Stonehouse in 1999, and we met Billy Buckingham. Well, I'd met Billy Buckingham previously in a pub in Stonehouse, where he was in full flow singing to all the locals this wassail song, which he learned when he was 12 years old, and he was now in his 80s. But still singing very well. And he said he used to go, and this wasn't orchard wassails, an orchard wassail. This was a house-to-house wassail around the farms and the big houses, collecting money, him and his friends. So this time we took a camcorder with us, and I think if Carol can now share her screen, we can see a little bit of that wassail song that he sang to us.
All right.
few more clicks on the mouse. There he is. Click on.
They always sail all over the town. Our bread it is white and our ale it is brown. And our bowl it is made of the best Motlin tree. Give away sailing bowl, I'll bring on to thee. Now it's out to our master into his right eye. Pray God send our master a good Xmas pie, and a good Xmas pie that we may all see. Give away sailing bowl, I'll bring on to thee.
Right. Well, the song is 8 verses long, so it must have taken quite a long time to sing. But we have it all on video anyway, and you can actually find that version on YouTube of Billy Buckingham singing that. And the collecting sort of gathered pace after that. I'd looked at some of the records, LPs put out by Topic Records, and I thought, well, a lot of these songs come from gypsies. So myself and a friend, we went out one night to a local pub where we knew it'll be nearly all gypsies because it was just opposite a gypsy campsite between Gloucester and Cheltenham. And we spent the evening there and made contact with a member of the Brazel family. It's written like Brazil, but they pronounced it Brazel. And I won't go with the whole story because it's quite a long story. But basically, I kept going back and got loads of songs from them. A lot of which have been issued on CD by Musical Traditions. So that's quite exciting. And other songs that we met, country singers, and one person that I think it was my good friend Paul Burgess tipped me off about a singer called David Gardner, and he said he knows some old Gloucestershire songs. So I contacted David, went down to see him, and he sang some very good songs and played the mouth organ to me, played the guitar, and about a year later, I invited him up to a do that we had in Cheltenham, and I said, "Would you sing your old songs to us?" Which he did. I was very pleased to get this song. It's called the Gloucester Blinder, the Gloucester Blinder, and lots of versions of it all over the country: Hampshire, Cornwall, and East Anglia. And this is the only version I know which doesn't have swear words in it. All the East Anglian versions and the Hampshire versions have swear words. But as children watching, I won't go into that now. But this is a video of David singing a couple of verses of the Gloucester Blinder. It's a lot of dialect in it, Gloucestershire dialect, and it's an old sort of comic recruiting song. Here we are.
Oh, it's fine.
Wrong one.
I want.
There we are, that one.
Not that one. There we are, that's the one.
Yeah.
In Gloucestershire, where I comes from, they called I an outlaw dodger. They asked I o'er and o'er again if I could be a soldier. They asked I o'er and o'er again I could take a shiner, and they told I that the name of the corps would be the Gloucester Blinder. With a fa-la-la here and a fa-la-la there, fa-la-la-la when I get home. So they took I on the square that day, doing their duty manual. Up and down the square we marched, the right foot beat the handle. With eyes right, eyes left, damn it all you other! If the stir's as much as answering back next to me in the lockup, and the fa-la-la here and the fa-la-la there, and the fa-la-la when I get home.
Okay. Anyways, it's a comic song in dialect about this raw recruit joining the army, proper yokel he is, and his his son, Mike Gardner, still sings the song, sings it very, very well, and has added an extra verse. His dad has passed away now, but when Mike sings it, he adds an extra verse on, which I think is rather nice. If I can remember it, when I get back to Gloucestershire, I'll go home to my village, and I'll never forget the bloody war and the friends lost in the carnage. I'll go to church on Sunday morn, thank the Lord in heaven for the, I always get this wrong, for the woods and the trees and the hills and the vales and that old winding Severn, which for those who don't know is the river that goes by Gloucestershire. So I think that's rather nice, a nice tribute to his father there. So Heather, did you want me to say something about Devon as well?
Yes, please. That would be really helpful.
Well, I'll tell you what, I won't say it. I'll get somebody else to say it, shall we?
Yeah, that would be good.
That's under Colin.
Continuity.
Yeah, so it's Colin Andrews, I think, is going to say
That's the one.
some words about the folk collecting in Devon. Thank you very much, Colin.
Okay, thank you. Right, can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I've known Gwilym and Carol ever since university, and I think Gwilym was probably the biggest influence in arousing my interest in traditional song. I was very much into the sort of American folk music before then, skiffle kind of things. Anyway, I remember when we both worked in Hampshire, I accompanied him on one of his earlier collecting visits up into North Hampshire. But I moved to Devon in 1973 and very soon became active in the folk scene in the county, and very soon came across Bob Cann and Charlie Hill. Bob was well known even in those days outside of the county, but Charlie much less so. He was known among, most of his singing was in the local pubs and some of the local folk sessions that were around. When Gwilym and Carol visited us in, I think it was 1979, it was the time of the second Dartmoor Folk Festival, which had been started the previous year by Bob Cann, held in a little sort of country house called Woodhouse. And at that time, I think it gave Gwilym the opportunity to meet up with Bob and talk to him. And I would imagine that they met up on other occasions as well. The following year, actually, the festival moved to the village of South Zeal, and it's been there ever since. On other occasions, when they visited us, I took him over to Charlie Hill's farmhouse just in the village of Sprayton, just stone's throw from the Tom Cobley Tavern. And I mean, Charlie was always very, very keen and willing to talk about his songs. He'd talk at great length about them. And I'm pretty sure that on other occasions when Gwilym and Carol were staying with us, they visited Charlie. And even when he retired and he moved to the village of Drews Tainton, one thing about Charlie, he had a phenomenal memory for songs. You sing a song to him and he'd have it there pretty quickly. One thing about Gwilym, whenever we met, either if I was staying with him or he was staying with us, I'd always get the latest update of all the collecting that he'd done, usually in quite great detail. But so it was very, very nice to see the book and see the various accounts of his collecting experiences and anecdotes about the singers that he'd met. So it's a marvelous book. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much, Colin. Now, Gwilym, I believe that you worked in the United States from 97 to 98. I'd be interested to hear how your research continued there. Thank you.
You're muted, Gwilym.
Unmute. Yeah, the civil service, in its wisdom, decided to send me for 6 months to the Washington area, which was good fun, and I worked there, and that was fine. But I thought, well, that, you know, I'm right in the middle of a good bit of America. The Appalachian Mountains, just running south of where I was living. There must be some things around, so I contacted a few people, and contacted members of the Folklore Society of Greater Washington, and they were a terrific lot because they knew a lot of the songs I did. They liked English songs. The first thing I went to in America was a concert by the Copper Family, and the Copper Family went down a storm there. They even got a standing ovation at the end. I thought, well, this is wonderful. And I met people there that knew a lot of the Copper Family songs, and I was very amused to meet a particular musician. He was from a Jewish family. The whole family were Jewish, and he was a fiddle player, and they knew quite a chunk of the Copper Family songbook between them, which I thought was quite interesting. But I started making inquiries about how I could meet old singers, ballad singers, and I was sent. I was given lots of tip-offs of people to contact in Virginia, West Virginia, and up in New York State, and I set off down Route 81 down to the bottom end of Virginia and recorded a singer there, and I went over the hills to West Virginia to Glenville and recorded a couple of singers there. I recorded 3 singers in West Virginia, which was good fun. And this was great fun. And the Folklore Society of Greater Washington made a great fuss of me there. I think they regarded me as a bit of a curiosity. But anyway, I was made very welcome. We've got a member of the Folklore Society here. That's Lisa Null and Charlie. They're there somewhere. Perhaps they'd like to say a few words, and they remember me visiting them and singing with them there.
You're muted.
You're muted, Lisa. You're muted. There we are.
Muted. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah, you're a bit quiet.
Here's Charlie over in the corner, and he'll talk a little more because I'm an elderly diva who runs parts of the folk festival stuff and the getaways that some of you went to, which was online this year. But at the time that I knew Gwilym the best, I had been the program chair that helped put on the Copper concert and many others. And one reason at that time that we were fascinated by Gwilym is that he was singing ongoing versions we'd never heard of 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 the traditional songs we'd already sort of found in old books, or off those of us who are older maybe had learned from the Coppers, or maybe those of us who were a little younger had learned from Shirley Collins, and those of us who were younger still had learned from the Wattersons or Martin Carthy. Uh, but here was Gwilym singing these wonderful things that were seemed to be alive and present in Gloucester, and showed a real interest in our music as well, and didn't just regard it as sort of fragmentary versions of the true tradition over there, but saw it as a wonderful, could understand the interplay between the two of them. Well, when he was over here, he quickly became like family to us. We were an interesting lot in Washington. unlike a lot of folk societies in England who are sort of very locally geared around their own community, Washington has an international presence of people who come in and out to work in the area. And because of our access to the Library of Congress, to the Smithsonian Folklife Center, to the National Folk Festival, the Smithsonian Folk Festival, and the various museums and the universities that are here, a lot of us are not just performers who like to make good music, but are constantly receiving an influx of materials from the traditions. So both people who come in and out of Washington to appear under the more official auspices of these organizations, or because actually we can get in our car and go out and find them. But there's kind of a very, it's one of the reasons I chose to move to Washington when I got off touring as a musician. I wanted to be in a place where uh, I could make wonderful music with good local people, but constantly be receptive to a broader source of traditional music. Charlie, you might want to say a few things about that. Charlie has been a past president of the society, was here during Gwillim's time, and is currently their co-concert program chair.
Yeah. No, we remember Gwilym as somebody who was working for Her Majesty's government, and he couldn't share much of what he was working about, but he could certainly share his enthusiasm about folk music of all kinds, and he did. And we met him, and we realized this is a man we need to share with everybody we know.
Yeah, he was our kind of guy.
And in America, you very often have all the folk clubs, and we're sort of a separate layer from the rest of the people, but we all know each other no matter where in America we are somehow. And we realized that we needed to give Gwilym contacts with everybody we knew from all over America.
And so we did. I think we did provide a lot of contacts with you. I think we'll be hearing a lot from the Cleveland family, who was perhaps his star informants. We were great admirers of Colleen and James, who used to come down and sing with us as the heirs of Sarah Cleveland, who was one of the great singers and purveyors of tradition in the Adirondacks region. One thing that was wonderful about Gwilym is he did love Appalachian music, but he was understanding of the fact that there was great traditional bedrocks of music really throughout the country, but in the Adirondacks and other parts of America as well. And I just wanted to say I have yet to read the book, but one of the things that's very exciting to me about the book, he's written his book, but a lot of the work that's gone into preserving, maintaining, funding, and keeping this stuff as alive is the work that he's done with the local folk people in his own community. I don't mean necessarily the informants, but the people through the folk club, through the archives. I'm not quite sure what these institutions are, but I know that he's turned his own work into a community effort to keep and enrich it. And that's something that's very exciting to us. A lot of this stuff over here is done by folklorists who do their own thing, and a lot of them go off, and they're often university based, and they often go off in their own arcane tracks. But the fact that he's done so much to revitalize the collecting, preservation of music in his own community is something that I look forward to reading about and learning from as I get a chance to get my own copy of the book.
Lisa, the book's in the post.
Thank you.
Or at least it will be as soon as I can get down to the post office, which is only a couple of 100 yards away from where I live, actually. So that's no problem. But not tomorrow. Tomorrow's Sunday.
A halt after the election. They may come back to life again, but
they may well do. I mean, you mentioned you mentioned New York State, I think, and the Adirondacks. And I think the experience I really enjoyed best was going up to the New York State. Not many English folk song collectors have been up that way, but I was told if I want to meet ballad singers, I really should meet the Cleveland family. And I'm very pleased that Colleen has joined us after a few technical issues. Are you there, Colleen? Yes, she is. And her nephew James. So we've got two members of the family here. I wrote a little bit about going up there in the book, which may interest you, because it made quite an impression on me.
Oh, that's Colleen.
So yeah, so this is what I wrote. We in England tend to think of America as being a highly populated country, but it's not so. Many Americans live in remote areas, and the Cleveland family are no exceptions. Colleen's parents, Jim and Phyllis, lived in a house on the edge of the woods, with the next house owned by Colleen's brother about half a mile away. It was an idyllic scene for a folk song collector, surrounded by forest and mountains, with the January snow on the ground. Even though the temperature scarcely rose above freezing, there was an abundance of wildlife frequenting the bird feeders outside the kitchen window. I sat there transfixed as a succession of squirrels, blue jays, chickadees, and various shades of woodpecker paraded before my eyes. And we had to compete in the recording with some very loud caged birds in the family kitchen, extremely noisy, and a central heating system, which I found a lot of American houses have, which come on with a loud click and rumble. And well, Colleen will remember this. I mentioned this to her and said, listen, if I want to record these songs, inside the house is not very good. So anyway, we put on thick coats and went out onto the balcony in New York State in January, which wasn't very warm, but at least we got away from the caged birds and we got away from the click and rumble of the central heating. And Colleen said, oh, I'll sing you my grandmother's version of Scarborough Fair. She started it, and then a chainsaw started up. And a chainsaw on a cold winter's day carries an unbelievably long way. So we just sat there and laughed and waited for the chainsaw to finish and carried on with the collecting, which was rather nice. So I'm excited that we've got Colleen here today after a few technical problems getting her online, but thanks to our technical team here, we seem to have her live, and perhaps she'd like to come on and say a few words about our meeting and perhaps even sing one of those songs which I recorded. I've got a request, which is a few verses of Andrew Begin. You got to unmute, I think, Colleen.
Yeah,
you're on.
Yeah, she's on.
So, well, thank you very much, Gwilym, for asking us to join in on this. I'm very honored that you included us in the book. And great thanks to James. He and I have been frantically messaging back and forth trying to get work up here so I could talk to you and sing for you. So yeah, I'll do just a few verses of Andrew Bergin, which is our family's version of Henry Martin. And my grandmother learned this from her mother, who apparently learned it from her mother. So we've got at least 5 generations in our family to have known and sung this song. Our version's a little different. In the end of our version, Andrew Bergin wins. So there were 3 brothers in merry Scotland, and 3 loving brothers were they, and they all cast lots to see who would go a-robbing all round the salt sea, a-robbing all round the salt sea. The lot it fell to Andrew Bergin, the youngest one of the 3, that he should go sailing all round the salt sea to keep his two brothers and he, to keep his two brothers and he. He sailed east, he sailed west, until three ships he espied, a sailing far off and a sailing far on, till at last they came sailing close by, till at last they came sailing close by. Who's there, cried Andrew Bergin, who's there with colors so high? We are three merchant ships from merry England, and if no offense, let us pass by. And if no offense, let us pass by. I don't know how much of this you want to hear, but
Wow,
we,
that's wonderful because
yeah, we can do.
and yeah, and then somebody called Captain Charles Stewart comes in and starts chasing Andrew Begin, doesn't he?
Yep,
But
we can do the short synopsis. Broadside to broadside, they
yeah,
shoot there.
and then there's the last verse is very good as well. It's a
Yeah, I'll sing
punchline.
the last.
You sing that one?
Andrew Bergin sends Captain Charles Stewart back to the king to tell him
Yeah.
that he's sunk his ships. And the last verse is go back, says Andrew Bergin, and tell old King Henry for me, that he may be king over all England, but I shall reign over the sea. But I shall reign over the sea.
That's the one.
In a lot of versions, Andrew Bergin doesn't win. So.
Oh, I know. And the other thing I got to mention here is that Colleen is a wonderful storyteller, and one of her stories actually gave the title of the book, but we won't go into that now because it's a little bit rude.
Read it in the book.
Yeah, but I have to read it in the book. But they can, you know, if people say to me, well, what's that mean then? I say, well, buy the book and read it, and you'll find out. I'm going to ask your nephew, James, if he would sing a bit now, because he was with us on that visit, and even though he was a mere teenager, he was still singing the song.
Yeah, that was I was 18 at the time.
I think you were.
That's a long time ago, 22 years.
And you know a lot of the family songs, don't you, James?
Not as much as I used to. I can say that. Age plays a part, but but I remember that day, and thank you for doing this, Gwilym. Thank you for fighting through and continuing this, because the younger generations need it, and it has to keep happening. So thank you for doing that. So I'm going to sing a little bit of Bonnie Bon Boy. I'll do a short version of it. I'll cut a couple verses out. What had you for your dinner? Oh, sorry, starting over. What had you for your dinner, my Bonnie Bon Boy? What had you for your dinner, my comfort and joy? Oh, eels fried in butter, mother, make my bed soon. For I'm sick unto my heart, and I want to lie down. What will you leave your father, my Bonnie Bon Boy? What will you leave your father, my comfort and joy? Oh, my house and my lands, mother, make my bed soon. For I'm sick unto my heart, and I want to lie down. What will you leave your mother, my Bonnie Bon Boy? What will you leave your mother, my comfort and joy? Oh, the gates to heaven open, mother, make my bed soon. For I'm sick unto my heart, and I want to lie down. What will you leave your wife, my Bonnie Bon Boy? What will you leave your wife, my comfort and joy? Oh, the gates to hell wide open, mother, make my bed soon. For I'm sick unto my heart, and I want to lie down.
Well done.
Wonderful, James. Yeah. I tell you what, we're going to jump. I missed a line in the script, and I forgot somebody rather important, my own daughter. I'd better bring her in now, and my granddaughter, there's Esther, 8 years old a few days ago. Look at that. And you know, people say to me, "Oh, well, you know, who do you ask about songs?" Well, everybody and anybody. Now, I've recorded songs from illiterate gypsies, farm workers. I've recorded songs from university graduates and songs from children. And when Marianne was going to school in Cheltenham, she used to come back with new rhymes every day, and I said, well, let's write them down. Now, Marianne, this will surprise you. Do you remember this?
Marianne's songbook.
Marianne's songbook. In this very book, we wrote down all the little rhymes and skipping rhymes that you came back with, and they all went down here. I'll show you next when you come up here. I went down to her school once with a tape recorder and got loads and loads of children's songs, rhymes, and mainly girls. They were all queuing up to tell me their little rhymes. So Marianne remembered one and taught it to her daughter. So can you still remember that one, you two?
Absolutely. So on the CD that goes
Real
with the book.
How does it go then?
Yeah. How's it go? So on the CD that's with the book, you can hear Esther singing this one. So we're going to sing it for you now together.
Go on then.
Ready? 3, 4.
Down by the bramble bushes, down by the sea, bum bum bum, true love for you, my darling, true love for me. When we get married, we'll raise a family. A boy for you, a girl for me. How many fishes in the sea? 12 and 12 make 24. Kick your teacher out the door. If she does not understand that, hit her on the head with a baseball bat. Teacher, teacher, I declare, I can see your underwear. Is it black or is it white? Oh my gosh, it's dynamite. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Blast off!
Oh yeah, well done. Well done, the Davis family. You know, children's rhymes are every bit as important as the big wonderful ballads. It's just different aspect of folklore. I'm going to hand back to Heather now, and after that I've got a few plugs.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to Marianne and Esther. I think it was my fault that you were omitted earlier, so apologies for that.
Probably not.
Thank you. So to sum up, the book is a run through and an insight into your passion for folk song, and collecting the folk song collecting over several decades. What would be helpful now is to find out if any of the other speakers would like to add anything following the formal proceedings.
Apparently not. I left them speechless.
Perhaps you could sum up then, Gwilym.
Okay, well, it's just a lot of thanks, really. A lot of people have encouraged me over the years, and a lot of them are on screen tonight. And some of them, like Paul Marsh in Hampshire, is no longer with us. He was a great help in my collecting, and other people have come out with me. Paul Burgess, Charlie Menteith, and I've all dragged them around to meet old singers and record them, and particularly my wife Carol, we went out on several collecting trips together to meet old singers and to record them, and that was great fun. Got to mention the book because it's published by Pegasus. Remember that, Pegasus Publishers, and it's not expensive. It's a paperback. It's only about a tenner. And don't come to me for the book because I don't want boxes of books sitting around in my garage. Go straight to Pegasus Publishers. But Rod Stradling of Musical Traditions was kind enough to say, well, let's do a CD of it. and this has got a lot of the tracks, including a lot of the tracks that full versions of ones you've heard tonight. It's got some tracks that we didn't mention tonight, which I think are quite remarkable. The singer Gordon Hall, which some people would have heard of, does a wonderful version of The Leaves of Life, which is a very rare song. He only took 8.5 minutes to sing it, which is short for some of Gordon's songs, no longer with us. And a singer that I recorded in Malvern with a very gory ballad called Lambkin. Sounds like it's about a sheep, but it's not. It's about somebody who murders a woman and a child. But it's a very old ballad. And there's more wassail songs here. There's a few tunes, all sorts of things. And that you can get from musical traditions. I want to mention the techies. The techies here. We've had my wife Carol and my son Robin and our good friend Steve Rowley, and they've been pressing knobs and communicating like fury to get everybody online, which is very good of them. And I'd like to thank the Davis family, really, for all of them for supporting me, which is rather nice. I don't know if any issues have been raised in the chat or.
I haven't got anything specific on the Zoom chat, Gwilym. I don't know if Stephen and Robin are monitoring the other chats. Is there anything on there at all? Or I know we have lots of other people listening. We've got 14 attendees, I see, as well as the panelists who are with us.
Yeah.
Oh, well, just the people enjoying it on YouTube.
Oh, good. Good.
Right. And on Facebook. Yep.
That's nice to know.
Yep.
Okay,
Steve, can we see the attendees now or not?
Oh, yeah. Can we see them?
Well, if you want to bring them in, I can do that.
Yeah, bring them in, Steve, and we can wave at them.
Okay. Yeah. Why not?
Probably a few friends of mine there.
Yeah, there are. I've got a list. There we are. It's a few folks coming in now. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, so if everyone clicks on the gallery view, they'll be able to see everybody.
Ah,
yeah.
Thinking.
Click on your gallery view. You can see everybody. They're all waving. There we are.
Are they? Right. Okay.
Yeah. Chris, Jeff.
Oh my word! There they are. Oh.
They all are. Yeah.
That's mine there.
Lots of people.
Yeah. Got Sam and Eleanor Telfer. Oh yeah. Chris Brown. Yeah, from Hampshire. Chris Crothers from down the road. Pam Bishop. Ellen. Yeah. Stephen Gale. Terry and Rachel. Mike Gardner. Oh, Mike, I'm glad we got your dad's song in. That was that was good fun. John Roberts from America. Hi, John.
Yeah.
Joanna McVeigh, our friend that we sing with.
Northern Ireland.
Richard Shidlaw is a great ally of mine on the on any sort of research.
Mm-hmm.
Paul Gilman, I've known for years. Morris Dancer. Oh, what a lovely lot. Look at that.
Excellent.
Anyway, I think we'd better wind up now if anybody's got anything else to say. Thanks very much to Heather for keeping us all in order, and don't forget that she is in charge of the Heritage Hub, which is the Gloucestershire Archives. So if you want to know anything about Gloucestershire Archives, have a look on their website. You can look up all sorts of things.
Thank you, Heather.
And yeah, Stephen says, which Stephen is this? It's from Stephen.
Steve Gale.
Stephen Gale. Oh, he particularly liked the playground song, apparently. There we are. And he liked the input from the USA.
Yes.
Oh, our Tony Poulter. Tony Poulter that I've known for about 200 years. Look at that.
I've been here all night, but I'm not very good at working these things. So
no, you're not.
I've been here listening. I didn't realise you couldn't see me. Sorry.
No, can see you now.
And Jeff and Sue Ramshaw. Oh, that's lovely. Our friends.
The Collins songs are beautiful. Yeah.
There we are.
Lovely,
oh, yeah.
Colin James. Yeah, James's song was great too. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we'll sign off now and wish you all a safe rest of the year and all into the future. All stay safe.
Yep.
Keep the diseases away.
Yes.
Keep away from people. It sounds awful, doesn't it? The day will come when all this is over. It'll be a chapter in history books.
Yeah.
All this
Yeah.
horrible disease.
And maybe we'll see you at the Prince of Wales again one day, Gwilym.
Oh, I'm sure you will. I'm sure I've got a CD of yours, Pam.
Yeah.
I'll give it back when I see you next.
Okay.
Okay. Well, we'll sign off now then. I'll say trio. So
Thank you all
big
very
wave.
much.
Big wave.
Bye. 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 Well done. Well
Bye.
done. Super. Well